clearly a lot of people in the Palestinian world believe that Hamas and Hezbollah are not terrorists, but are essentially a form of freedom fighter. What do you say to that?
Listen, killing, looting, raping, kidnapping are not forms of resistance. You know, Gandhi led resistance in India against the British. It was a peaceful resistance. It bare fruit eventually. But what so-called Palestinians and the Palestinian revolution, it's a revolution without a compass. It's going to nowhere, and nothing can satisfy their ambition. And it has never been a fight over land. It's a religious fight that started some 1400 years ago. It's motivated by great hatred against the Jewish people. They don't want to accept the Jewish people to exist in that land. And the entire world is in denial in this fact. We say that this is the root cause problem, that the Muslims don't want the Jewish people to return to their homeland. The Jewish people are the indigenous of that land, with overwhelming evidence, as I told you in the past. The Muslims don't have any evidence that support actually their connection to that land. They are invaders. And the Palestinians invaded the land. They are not an ethnic group. Then now they have been trying so hard to delegitimize the Jewish people. And what I say to the Palestinians, first of all, you need to prove your legitimacy before you try to delegitimize the indigenous people of the land. Once you succeed of showing us who you are, then we may talk to you about a state. But to claim that you have the land, even though the indigenous of the land, the Jewish people, actually have been willing to share the land, and they were willing back in 1948 to share the land with the Arabs, but the Arabs refused. They had equal opportunity, just like the Jewish people, to declare their independence. But instead of declaring their independence back in 1948, they declared war against the Jewish people, only because they are Jewish people. Then 40 years later, in 1988, they declared their independence. So, once what so-called Palestinians drop their violent approach to the problem and accept Israel's right to exist in that region, then we can talk about things. But to really water it down and say that this is a conspiracy, people like Cenk, they are living in a conspiracy theory, alternative reality. We tell them that this war, that Sinwar started in Gaza, is a very dirty war. He weaponized civilians only to get sympathy of people like Cenk and many others around the globe. This is the most destructive weapon in the hands of Hamas, and millions around the world fell into this trap. So as long as we empower Hamas, more children are going to die. And if we don't remove Hamas from power, if we don't remove the Ayatollah from power, then this endless and vicious cycle of violence will continue for eternity. It's as simple as that. But of course, in the meantime, we are aware of the suffering of the children. The children of Gaza were born Arab. They were born innocent. They were not born Palestinians. Then they had been indoctrinated to hate. They have been indoctrinated to blame Israel. As Cenk right now, he has been blaming Israel since the beginning of the war, but now he sees the defeat of Hamas. So now he's changing his tone a little bit, his attitude. And I like his cleverity. He's a very clever Palestinian. He's the perfect example of a Palestinian, by the way. Cenk, just right there. Because Palestinian is not limited to Gaza. Palestinian is a syndrome. It's a mental illness. It's a universal phenomenon. And Cenk is the perfect example. And if he gets hungry eventually, I will not be surprised that he will eat his own children.
Okay, or Cenk, your response.
Okay, so you would like me to respond to a guy who just escaped from a mental asylum. Okay. If he calls me a Palestinian...
You
look,
are the one who should go to a mental asylum.
Okay. If he calls me a Palestinian, I am incredibly proud to bear that name. Thank you for making me an honorary Palestinian. The whole world should be honorary Palestinians for the suffering that they've gone through and the brutal slaughter of the Palestinians at the hands of the Israelis. So I don't want the audience to get confused. Mossad is an Israeli agent. He's a turncoat. He doesn't believe that the Palestinians should exist. But it's okay. I don't have to clarify it much because he just told you. He thinks that Palestinians don't exist and that they have no rights and that they are the ones encroaching on the indigenous land of the Israelis. I mean, look, I know if you're an Israeli supporter, some of you have lost your mind so much that you believe that the Muslims there that have been living there for centuries, millennium, are somehow in your way and they should just be dispensed with, and that the real, true heirs of that land are the people that were brought in from Europe and other places. Look, the Jewish people have suffered greatly throughout history, and anyone who denies that is denying reality. But now it breaks my heart to see that they have become what they most despised. They escaped that kind of brutality only to do it to the Palestinians now. So if you notice, Mossad over there never answered the question. There is no standard that the Palestinians can ever meet. They even say absurd things like they don't exist, that this Palestinian state should never exist, Palestinians as an ethnicity should never exist. And then they have the temerity to say, can you believe that they theoretically don't think that Israel should have a right to exist, even though it's existed since 1948. It's one of the biggest militaries in the world, backed by the greatest military power in the history of the world. It has nuclear weapons. Your existence is rock solid. You're murdering Palestinian
But that doesn't. But hang on, Cenk.
Wake
but Cenk,
up.
let me jump in there.
Wake up.
Cenk, that doesn't
So
change
you didn't
the
jump
fact.
in as the lunatic
Cenk,
was saying things,
hang on.
but go ahead.
Cenk, that doesn't change the premise of the argument that Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Iranian regime, none of them accept the existence of an Israeli state. And they are all wedded.
Piers,
well, hang on. Let me finish.
Let
me finish my question.
Okay,
and they're all wedded to its destruction. That's the point. It's not a question of whether it does exist.
No.
It's that all those groups
insane.
want to eradicate it. They're open about it.
Okay, Piers, let's look at your framing, okay? So in the reality-based world, Palestine does not exist because Israel is blocking its existence. Its cabinet voted to say that a Palestinian state will never exist. They will never allow it. So you're not worried that in the real world, the Palestinians are not allowed to exist, and if they resist at all their brutal 57-year humiliating occupation, they're called terrorists, they're the worst people on earth, we should hate them all, and they should never be allowed to exist. That's the real world. Israel exists and is one of the largest militaries in the world.
Yeah, but you're missing my point again, deliberately. I think you're deliberately missing my point.
Hold on. Okay, Piers, let me finish. Now, meanwhile, you live in a theoretical world where you say these powerless people who have no ability to affect Israel's existence at all, the Palestinians are literally throwing stones. They bomb back to the Stone Age. They have no power at all.
Hezbollah's been firing
You're
rockets.
saying, hold on. If you ask me a question, let me answer the goddamn question.
You are making wrong statements,
Okay,
Cenk.
you're being a ridiculous, unfair, ridiculous person.
I'm picking you up
go
on...
and join the Mossad over here with him.
I'm picking you up. His name is Mosab, by the way, with a B. But the
Mossad, right? That's who he works for, and that's who he's
Well, his name
after.
is Mosab. And he works...
Oh, he's Mosab that works for Mossad. Okay, got it.
And the reason... How do you not see, conversely, that what happened on October the 7th was to Jewish people not dissimilar to what the Nazis did to them in World War II? How do you not see that parallel?
No, it is not similar at all.
It is.
At all, Piers.
It is.
No,
it's a group
Piers,
wedded to the destruction of all
it's
Jewish...
insanity.
Let me finish
Stop
my
saying
question.
The same things.
It is a group wedded, in the case of the Nazis, to the eradication of all Jewish people, as indeed are Hamas. What's the difference?
Okay, this is a convenient talking point to justify...
What's the difference?
Actually preventing the Palestinians from existing.
Tell me the moral difference.
What is wrong with you people?
Tell me the moral difference.
In reality...
Wow, where do I begin? To analyze the mental state of this self-proclaimed savior of the Gaza children. He really touched my heart. Who authorized you to speak on behalf of the Arab children of Gaza? Who authorized you?
You just did. You
You've
called me
never
a
been
Palestinian.
there. You don't care.
So am I
And
Palestinian or
now
am I
you
not?
think you hold the higher moral ground. You don't.
I do.
You're not the savior. You always need a victim in order to pose as the savior. You're not the savior. First, learn how to control yourself. Learn how to control your tongue buds before you try to control the world. It's a big situation in Gaza. All of us are heartbroken for the death of the children of Gaza. All of us. That includes Israel. Israel considers what's happening in Gaza a tragedy. It's a tragedy made up by the terrorists that you sympathize with, that you want to validate and legitimize. Then we will have to deal with the chaos that you create, your emotional being, going all over the place. Who authorized you to speak on the behalf of the Gaza? Nobody did.
You did.
You self-proclaimed, just like Mahmoud Abbas, just like Yasser Arafat, just like all the Palestinians who have been feeding on the pain of the Palestinian children. You are a parasite, a bottom feeder. This is what you are. So before you speak against the Prime Minister of a democracy and accuse him of being a terrorist, you need to look at yourself in the mirror. You have been supporting Hamas and it's recorded against you for eternity. So don't play the game now that your fight is for the children in Gaza. This is not your fight. You know who's fighting for the children of Gaza? The IDF. That is killing Hamas. That is uprooting Hamas so the children of Gaza can have their freedom after 36 years of slavery. Those are the ones who qualify to speak on the topic, not you sitting in your comfort.
I mean,
And
Cenk,
you want to have an opinion about it.
All right,
This
let
is
me
the
ask Cenk.
problem that we have dealing with scumbags like this.
all right, let me try and bring things back.
And then this guy, Mosab or whatever his name is, who, by the way, again, your audience should know is literally a paid agent of Israel. I mean, it's kind of obvious from what he says, but that he just
Well,
said
do you know
that
he's
the
a paid agent of
IDF
Israel? Do you know he is?
Yeah, the IDF is saving the children of Gaza, and they should thank the IDF.
Do you know he's a paid
course,
agent
look.
of Israel? Just for the record, you said he is. Do you
Yeah,
know that?
he's the one. Wait, doesn't he admit it? He turned on his family, he turned them in, and now works for Israel. That's a well-known fact. So that's why he comes out here and says absurd things like Palestinians don't exist.
Why is he
They have
not
no
allowed
right
to?
resist
Why is he not
anything,
allowed
and
to renounce and disown Hamas?
No, he's allowed to do anything he likes, but he's an Israeli agent. That's a well-established fact. So, okay, anyways, so that's why he says the absurd things, and that's also why he calls me a parasite, dehumanize Muslims, and so that it's easier to kill them. So,
First of all, this is not Bibi's fight. This is not Benjamin Netanyahu's fight. This is the fight of the Jewish people. It's a fight of a nation that is in the face of an existential threat. And this is where I identify with the Jewish people, by the way. It's not the fact that I helped stop suicide bombers during the Second Palestinian Intifada, and Cenk want me to feel guilty for saving human lives. And he tried to shame me for some reason. Thank God I know who I am, and I am very proud of what I did, because there is no way to go wrong with saving human lives. And today, when we look at the situation in Gaza, it's very similar. If I go to Gaza, the people of Gaza will kill me. If I go to the West Bank, the people of the West Bank would kill me. But why? You need to ask them that question. Because I stopped suicide bombing attacks against civilians that killed people indiscriminately. This is my crime. And Cenk agrees with them. And many of the pro-Palestine around the world agree with them. And what we say, this is not the fight of a politician in Gaza. This is the fight of a nation. I am fighting for my very existence, and this is where I identify with the Jewish fight. Now you ask me what's going to be next. And I don't like to do spoilers. but the entire Iranian regime is going to be history sooner or later. And of course, your guests keep on trying to discredit me. They don't know that I'm coming from that hill, from the depth of it, to a degree that I can foresee the future. You can just go back to our first interview from the beginning of the war and what I told you, and what I have been telling you, and what I tell you now. The Iranian regime, that includes Ayatollah and the Iranian Guard, they are all targets. The next level is going to be massive assassinations in Tehran. Everybody who helped the attacks on October 7th, everybody who orchestrated the attacks against the Jewish people, everybody who helped sacrifice Arab and Jewish children, Persian children, Ayatollah, since 1979 until now, he enjoyed a free ride. But now, this is not going to continue for eternity. He's wanted and he's going to be punished. The Iranian nuclear program is going to be destroyed. And anyone who gets in the way, it doesn't matter where they are, even if they are politicians in the West, they are going to fall. Because we cannot afford letting any Islamic entity, and I said this previously, and I mean what I say, and you need to take this very seriously. A person who has been launching ballistic missiles on a democracy while millions of children had to go to shelter again and again and again. Then he funded his proxies to destabilize an entire region. This type of lunatics cannot obtain mass destruction weapon. It's as simple as that. It's common sense. You don't need to be part of the Israeli intelligence to realize that Ayatollah with a mass destruction weapon is bad news. So Cenk and many of those losers want us to stop and wait for help to come from the outside, just like the Palestinians, by the means of manipulation and deception. And when things don't go their way, they get very angry. And we tell them, you will be defeated. Cenk, you are going to be defeated. You are already defeated.